Yo, what's going on, guys? We're back here with book club numero 10. I don't know what it is in Spanish. But we're covering chapter 8 on pools of Devin Olson's Tactical Fly Fishing. And one of the biggest takeaways I had from this video, not from this video, from this chapter, I'm getting carried away with myself, was the different layers of pools. So pools break down into two different categories, from head to belly to tail out, and also from top to bottom. And the biggest takeaway that I got from this chapter personally was fishing those layers of the depth of the pool from top to bottom, or maybe you start with something like a dry fly or a dry dropper with a small suspension, kind of getting those surface fish. And often at different levels the fish have different activities where Devin talks about in the book, where at the top, the fish that are suspended closer to the top are probably going to be a little bit more active. They're probably seeking bugs on the surface. Kind of more in the mid column, they're probably also pretty active, and they get less active as they go down. A fish that's all belly to the bottom is probably not super active, so you may need to slow down your approach here. Plus, also pools can fish quite amazingly, as many people know. I mean, pools are the most popular water type to fish, as some of the other ones we've talked about in the last two book clubs. However, this is also going to be where you're going to get your most angling pressure, so it can be important to kind of vary the depth. A lot of people are going to be going right to the bottom right away, so it might be beneficial. It might be a huge payoff for you to cover it in layers from top to bottom, rather than just throwing your indicator on there, getting one depth, one drift, and go with that. I mean, that's what everyone else is doing. So work in layers, work from bottom to top. From top to bottom, and then tail out to head, and we'll get to that more. Pools are also your go-to this time of year in the wintertime. As it gets cold, all those fish group up kind of in slower water, and their metabolism slows down. So, especially out west with midge fishing and stuff, um, kind of go with more drifts in the wintertime because their metabolism's going to be slowed down. Focus on the pools. You'd be surprised how many fish stack up in the pools, so you can get big pods of fish in these pools, where other water might be empty, and these pools just have a lot of fish, or all the fish. So in the wintertime, focus on those pools if you can. If you can be there and be the guy that has the pool on your busy stream, lock down, get it. And then we go into from tail out to head. And so he talks about in the book kind of how the tail out is, the fish in the tail out are typically more active than the fish in the middle and at the head. Scratch that, maybe not at the head, but at least in the middle. And so you're able to cover the tail out kind of, I think he assumes he covers 6 inches on each side of his drift with a cast in the tail out. And he typically fishes dry dropper or a floated cider in the tail out, just because you're typically dealing with kind of shallower water. It's that transition from the pool into the riffle. Water's, kind of, it's like a big hammock, and your water's sloping up, and it's getting shallow. It's going from deep to shallow. So kind of, being a little bit more towards the surface with that dry dropper technique, or, that floated cider technique, which can also be a really good way to fish. And you can do all that with your nymphing rig, or you can even do it with a suspension rig, though the shallow water is going to be kind of a little harder for a traditional suspension rig, just because of the depth of the water. And then as we get into the belly of the pool, Euro nymphing is definitely a acceptable method. So is dry droppers. Suspension nymphing becomes really good. I mean, I wouldn't say it fishes any better than the other ones, or any worse, depending on the situation, but this is your best time or your best spot to throw on that indicator and fish that way, if that's how you're used to fishing, if that's how you know how to fish the best. The middle of that pool is the place to do that. Again, like I said, work top to bottom, work through those fish. This is where you're going to have the most variant in depth. If you're in that hammock, you're here at the deep spot. This is where you're going to have the most variable depth. So kind of work top to bottom, enjoy those depth changes, and go from there. And then we move to the head of the pool, and this is typically where we get like a riffle coming in. There's typically some sort of flow I'm speaking in general terms. Obviously, not all pools are made equal, but you typically get some flow coming in. This is also going to be a spot where fish are very aggressive, just because that flow, they're kind of using that feeding lane, that bug factory, as that current pushes the bugs through. There's typically going to be more food available at the head of the run. However, this is also where you get variable currents. So anytime you have a current coming in, you get that churning of the water. He talks about in the case study, I don't want to cover the case studies too much like we talked about last week, just because that's what makes the book unique. But he talks about how the head really only produced one fish in their case study, and it was just because that current was coming in. You were getting these weird seams, you were getting this churning, and it really just wasn't cost efficient for those fish to be sitting at the head of the run. So they didn't catch much there, but throughout the back of the run and the tail out, there was a lot more fish. So I mean, fish all parts of the pool, this whole point of this book and breaking down these water individually so you can fish all parts of the water and be successful. But definitely fish all parts of the pool, especially this winter. These are something you can take out today. Go out there, fish a pool. If you need to get fish small, midges and stuff like that, throw that indicator on there, get down, fish in layers like we talked about. Fish like an ogre or an onion, they have layers. So do pools. They have layers. So do that. Get out there. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. Got some other banger videos coming out for you this week. Probably the funniest video I've ever made coming out tomorrow. It was just really enjoyable time, and I was doing all the editing and stuff, and I was just dying laughing. So definitely stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel so you can see that video tomorrow. We'll see you next week with another book club, and we'll see you.